A very pleasant evening to you out there. Many thanks for joining us on another edition of the program National Talk on Ekwa Television International. My name is Joyce Jakarda and we're live on Facebook and YouTube at Ekwa Television International. You can do well to join the conversation. Tonight on National Talk, the removal of fuel subsidy by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has continued to spark reactions across the country, especially with the latest hike in pump price of petrol. While some Nigerians think it is necessary to remove the subsidy in order to cut government spending and improve the economy, others believe the removal will have a negative impact on the poor and the vulnerable. The government have assured of providing relief to the poor and vulnerable through cash transfer, tax breaks, amongst others. However, it is not clear how effective these measures will be. On National Talk tonight, I have Comrade Dan Asama to discuss the sudden petrol price hike. Good evening and welcome to National Talk.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. It's good to be in Ekwa TV all the
It
time.
feels good to have you, Trust me, I'm definitely going to do justice to this topic.
Sure.
The issue of fuel subsidy removal is not news for Nigerians, especially with the impact of the removal. And we will recall that it was like 2 months ago that the president, talking about Bola Ahmed Tinubu during his inaugural speech, that he just said fuel subsidy is gone. So I just want to get your overview of that statement before we go into the conversation.
As a president, once you assume the office of a president, every statement, every public statement you make becomes an authority. You are an authority. So every statement you make becomes an order. So he was just making a statement. At that time, he had not removed it yet. He had just said he is going to remove it.
Well, immediately we saw how that some filling stations started hoarding.
Like I told you, it's a president, and they know that a president will hardly reverse his words in an instant. And that he said it, they knew that he was going to do it, and he did it. So when I was watching. I watched closely. I was watching, and when he said that, I'm like, whoa, this man! I wish he'd have hold back a little bit until maybe he assumes office and look at some other modalities before he would have done that. But he did it anyways, and it brought up the reactions that we saw. You know how the capital market works. I mean, the inauguration of a president can change a lot of things. Inauguration of a president and a president making a statement over a very contagious issues, it will definitely spark up reactions. And then you will see what we saw, that within the hour, the whole prices of fuel changes in the whole market across the country. And yeah, that's to tell you how powerful a president is. So I wasn't surprised, though, that he did that, because I think he had said that in his campaigns.
And I think considering the fact that he wasn't even the only one, I think almost the key presidential candidates, like that of the PDP as well as Labour Party,
they were all talking about
the removal of the first subsidy. But I think it took Nigerians, like a lot of people were shocked. Like we didn't think that it was going to be on the day of your inauguration, or that you're going to say that. And you know, the conversation is not really about the removal, but it is more of the methodology that people expected that should have been followed or palliative put in place, so that when this decision is taken, it's not going to be of impact negatively.
Like I said earlier, I mean, I think, well, we're going to look at the whole issues around the whole fuel subsidy removal and all of that. But before we got into that, in the instant of which the president made the statement, it's not bad for a president to have said that, especially that he had talked about that during his campaigns. He had said it over and over again. For him to have come out and said, I am going to take this out. Like what he was making was just a methodologic statement. He said, fuel subsidy is gone. So that alone, like I said, will spark up a lot of things. And then the fact that people marketers reacted to it on an instant is where I'm even concerned, because they just reacted on it swiftly, as if they were waiting for him to have to say that. They just changed the fuel pricing immediately. And then, like I said, I think maybe they preempted him quickly because he was going to have to put modalities in place before he would have made that announcement. But it was part of his speech. I do not think it was the official announcement, but because he's a president, everything becomes official. So when he said that, it becomes official, and people just take it to be the official thing. But I think he would have made I would believe that Tinubu would have thought of making a structure of trying to make a system that would support, will succor for the immediate pain that people went through. I will tell you, subsidy removal, to tell you the truth, we're juxtaposing this thing this evening, but subsidy removal is not a bad thing. And then subsidy in itself is not a bad thing.
True.
So in governance, you can go with subsidy, you can go with removal of subsidy. Well, the whole thing is how the coin is laid. I am right now counting, using my tongue to count my teeth, because I am not sure of what direction this is going to take, because subsidy removal could take either direction. To me, I will tell you sincerely, the struggles and the issues in Nigeria is not about subsidy removal. Our trouble is bigger than that. We need to treat our wounds. We cannot keep covering the wounds. We need to treat the wounds. We cannot keep treating the symptoms. You cannot have headache and you continue taking pain relievers. You need to look at what is wrong with you. You need to look deep inward and find what is making you sick and then heal it. So I agree, subsidy removal to me, I think it's just like taking a painkiller over a headache. You need to look at what is causing the headache consistently, because this is consistent enough for you to have gone down to the roots and look at what is causing this. Because the truth is, it's not about, it's just robbing Peter and giving Paul. This is what we are doing. We're just juggling. Because you leave the subsidy in the hands of those marketers. We, the common people on the streets, didn't get it. We never get it. The average Nigerians hardly benefited. That's the argument on the side of the government. Well, you took it back now and you put it on the government coffers. We don't really necessarily trust the government. I don't want to say that the government is having that integrity, that I'm trusting my money in the hands of the government. The government had over the years not proven to us that they have that kind of integrity that would disburse this kind of money in an equitable way that people will benefit from it.
Comrade Danasama, I think you made a very vital point about ignoring the wound and then just moving forward.
Yeah.
Now, this issue, the state that we have found ourselves in currently, Nigerians are suffering. A lot of people are in pain. People are hungry. Like yesterday, I saw a lot of people making fun with, we are now into Trekathon. Like it is like a new normal. We saw a video going viral, like within the week of Computer Village in Lagos, how people are trekking. And this is not just in Lagos, but cut across different states in Nigeria.
So tell you what, the pain here, that's my pain. You said it. It was, it was rather too sudden. The calculations and the modalities would have been in place before the announcement or before the subsidy was removed. I think the government jumped the gun on this one. Sincerely, they did. I would have thought that they would have made the modalities available and be ready for it before they will implement it. Now, there are two sides of the whole thing. For this evening, I'm looking at the side of the fact that what is fuel subsidy removal? What is the impact of fuel subsidy removal in the general economy and on the populace of Nigeria? And then, how does that apply to governance in totality? Not just for Nigeria. How does subsidy apply to governors all over the world, not just in Nigeria? You know, subsidy is done everywhere in the world.
True.
Subsidy is removed everywhere in the world. Subsidy is put in everywhere in the world. It adds up and subtracts depending on how you gauge your economy. You take the pulse of your economy and then you apply subsidy or you remove subsidy, depending on what the pulse of your economy is giving you. Some situations may happen. You may be during a drought. It may be a disaster. It may be a country at war. There could be so many things that will make government have to put a subsidy. And there could be so many things that government have to pull out subsidy. For Nigeria, I think it was 1970, between 1970 and 1973, Yakubu Gowon had to introduce subsidy, because that was when I think fuel prices started hiking the first time. That they have to subsidize for the masses so that there will be some succor. And then it came to the first time was removed, I think it was Babangida in 1988. So he removed it. And then because of some other reasons that he tried to copy it and do that. I see this time that there's going to be a lot of economic negative impact on the removal of the subsidy for right now. You see, in a country like Nigeria, where the average statistic of the driven power of the GDP is in the small and medium enterprises, you have to be careful on how you handle the small and medium enterprises. They are, in every developed country, it is the small and medium enterprises that develop into industrialization that makes the country a revolutionary industrialized country, or make it a strong economy, whatever it is. To be a first world country and a strong economy, we have to build from inside. It has to be industrialization, and industrialization from inside. And how does it start? It starts from small and medium enterprises. And these people are the ones taking the direct heed of this subsidy removal. On the intermediate, just in this span of time, before the whole thing is settled, it's going to really hit back. It's going to hit terribly on those small and medium price enterprises. Because, for instance, if you live 10 kilometers away from your place of business, maybe you're a salonist, you're a hairdresser, you're a stylist, or you're a fashion designer, and your place of work or your place of business is 10 kilometers away. From what I see on the ratio of transport, it's going to cost you not less than 2,000 to get one way. It's going to cost you like 2,000 naira one way, and maybe 4,000 naira to go to your workplace and come back. I will tell you sincerely, there are some of these people that would stay a whole day in their business place, and they have maybe 2 clients or just one client. And maybe the one client had paid you less than even the 2,000 naira of one way. And now you have to pay 4,000. So you would think about it, like, even if I have 10 clients, I will hardly have 4,000. So why would I even want to go to work? So you have not to go to work, and you may shut down the business because you don't want to go to work.
I think I've had a lot of tricycle riders around just saying, oh, there's no point actually doing this, because someone was giving his own experience. He bought a fuel at 5,000, and as that evening, he can barely bust off 3,000 there.
You see? Because, okay, so for the tricyclists or for the transport business, you might think they will hike the price and meet up. Yes. But this is the question. You hike the price, who jumps into your car? People are not even coming into the vehicles. People are thinking of different ways to do business. People are thinking of different things to do and different ways to cut out prices and not to do things. See, the whole thing is this. If you look at it critically, it's hitting on the average person. Because now you don't go to business. I know shops in this town that are closed because the owner cannot travel all the way to where they reside to come to their business place. They are thinking, if I come here and come the next day, the whole of my profit is going to go on transport. And then there's no need for me to come to work. And I will tell you, in the school where my children goes to school, they had to cut the 5 days into 4 days. Wow. Now they school between Mondays and Thursdays. So Friday is not a school day because they cannot. They're just seeing the pain of the parents traveling, bringing the kids in school and back, and the transportation and the hike and everything. So they cut out a day. And is that good for our education system? It's not necessarily good. And then this is what is going to happen across every business because there's no succor. So you should have created a palliative measure that will complement the subsidy removal. Sure. And I will tell you, I don't want to blame it on the federal government. Like I said earlier, the danger behind all of this is how it's done. So let's hit back on the subsidy again. Subsidy is government actually putting its resources on the national table. Imagine this is a big dinner, and then the federal government is providing the meal. So this subsidy is the meal that every Nigerian would sit around the table and benefit and eat from that. This is the one time that a citizen of a country benefit from the direct resource of his own country. It's a direct benefit from your resource. Americans subsidize medicals. Americans subsidize education. Americans subsidize enterprises. They subsidize a lot of things. So for government to subsidize is okay. The only problem we have in here is treat the wounds. We just don't have integrity. The people that were oil marketers or whatever marketers that were supposed to be these people that you're subsidizing for, you're giving them money, and then they are not doing the necessary thing. We're not getting the right product for the money.
That was the point I was going to make earlier on about treating the wound, because there are people that are responsible for the situation that we've actually found ourselves today. We talk about subsidy, yet people smuggle petroleum products to other countries. We saw how that in Cameroon, immediately after the announcement, there was protest by tricycle riders, even threatening increase of transportation because Nigeria removed subsidy. But again, in relating to that, because people are responsible, are we saying we are moving on and ignoring the people that have put us like where we are today? And again, there's this, you will recall that in April, after the removal, the NNPCL CEO, talking about Billy Kerry, talked about the fact that, since 2016, the government have not been paying subsidy. In fact, the federal government is owing it about 2.3 trillion naira. And he spoke about the fact that they are no longer going to be the ones in charge of determining price, but market forces, because we saw him making reference, even amidst this hike, that Nigerians woke up on Tuesday morning and just barely 2 months after the increase from 195 to about 488 to 545, depending on where your state and all of that. On Tuesday, Nigerians woke up and they met with another news again. NNPC stations across Abuja selling at 617, and then some independent marketers also hiked their prices. I want to get your take. Like, what sense do you make of the audacity of NNPCL to hike the price?
Well, it's not about audacity, but it's about, it has come to a place where they need to do that. They would have to do that. Otherwise, how would they work? How would they function? Everything circles around the capital, which is money.
They made it clear that they are not in charge of determining the price.
Of course, they don't determine the price, because every marketer will determine. I will tell you, I know. I don't want to advertise for any filling station here, but I know filling station in this town that still gives for 600. There are some that still gives for 600. Some are giving for 640. And these are licensed marketers, independent marketers. Some are given for 600, some are given for 640, some are given for 630. That's what NNPC PLC means. They meant they are not going to determine what an independent marketer, you don't know how his sources are, you don't know what he went through and all of that before he's able to get to the commodity. So for whatever he's able to put it, I think it's good not to put a monopoly or to put a cap on the independent marketers and insist on a price tag for them. There could be a range, but you cannot insist on the actual of the pricing. And for NNPC, it's a whole saga, and it's not only on the NNPC. Like I said again, NNPC are just players. You know, there are people who determine what is the check. There are people who determine the play board. There are people who make the design and put the game plan. You know, NNPC is one of those game players. They are the one of those players on the chess board. So it is a fact now that this is a reality. We need to live by it. We need to learn how to survive by it. All NNPC is doing is to give it to NNPC. I think what they're trying to do is to make sure that the product is available.
I think he said it clearly that supply is not an issue.
Exactly. So if you dare on too much, if you muscle too hard on this, it will become an issue with the supply. I will tell you the truth. The fuel price today is for what? 600, 650, that range.
From 617.
So I would tell you that's about the price of fuel everywhere around the world. It's about 700, 800 around the world. You know, in America, in UK, in Asia, and all these advanced countries.
So that as it fluctuates.
If it is not going to be subsidized, it's going to hit that. It's going to go up to like 700 naira if it's not going to be subsidized. You know, until it's subsidized. Now, the negative side of the subsidy, like I said earlier, I was saying, if you pull out subsidy, now the marketer is going to have to put a whole cost on you. And that's why we're paying that high price. We're paying exorbitant price because the marketer has to make his money. This is a business for him, right? And these marketers are not commoners. They are not really average Nigerians. They are people who have big money, because you cannot start all business if you don't have that kind of, there's a certain level, there's a benchmark capital you need to start that kind of a business. And if you have that business and you're running this business, that means you're substantially a big business person. So they have this subsidy. Government have been giving them this subsidy, and we don't feel the impact of it. They've not been really living up to it. And the government is frowning and is angry about that. And the government said, we're going to pull it out. My understanding is that now you pull out the subsidy. So that money that you pulled out, that you're not giving out for the marketers, independent marketers, should be disbursed to the masses. It should be what now an average Nigerian, or generally every Nigerian, should benefit from it. Every Nigerian should have, there must be a way that there is a direct benefit. I mean direct, not indirect benefit. You don't tell me that we bought weapons and gave our military to fight war with it, or we bought private, or we buy planes or whatever for no. I'm talking about something that is directly. Did you build roads? Do we have hospital? What are amenities? What are facilities? Schools? Whatever. Do stuff that people will directly benefit, because it's supposed to be that. So this is the point, though. If it is true, what I understand now, even the last subvention, when government gave out the federal subvention, it increased because there wasn't subsidy. They said it's because they didn't pay subsidy. So now they are able to increase the subvention. So if it is true that subvention is increased, that means state governors are going to be able to have a lot more money than they used to have. So now your faith is in the hands of your governor. Like you see, Zulum has started it. And I think it's Akwa Ibom or Calabar, Bayelsa, and then River. Taraba. You know, Taraba is doing education. He just said, okay, so primary and secondary education would be free. No, and then Maiduguri said, I'm going to have this transport subsidized. So he create his own subsidy. That's the joy of federal system of governance, because he's a chief executive of the state, controls his economy as well. So he created that. So he brings succor. I know, for instance, Plateau State, where Ekwa TV is operating from, Plateau State used to have in the 1987, 88, 1990s, and 91, we used to have what is called the Teen City Bus Service. You know, I remember at that time, you come from a distance that is like 5 kilometers for 3 naira. On a regular transportation, it will be like 10 naira, it will be like 5 naira. But for that, you come for 3 naira. You buy a ticket and you can travel for some time. So these are the kind of facilities, these are the kind of things that the governors in return can do, so that the people will still benefit indirectly or directly from the subsidy.
I think following the NEC meeting, National Executive Council yesterday, there have been a lot of recommendation. In fact, the expectation on the cash transfer, I think it has been moved to the states, because they said it doubts the integrity of the social register of President Muhammadu Buhari. And it really it was a cause of concern for me, because there are still some governors who are part of the NEC that this is like their second term, and then they were part of the team that came up with that social register. You recall I was talking about earlier of not treating the wound, and these people are saying, oh, this social register lacks integrity test. So you were part of the formation of that register. Now you're talking about the register lacking integrity test and the need to come up with new register. And you know, one of the issues we have as a nation is the issue of data, proper data, like having account of people, birth, death, and all of that. And people have been asking questions. You know that the 8,000 naira that was proposed earlier on to be given to about 12 million poor household was highly criticized by Nigerians. Oh, what kind of government will say that its citizen for like a poor household for 6 months is going to be getting 48,000 that can at most buy a bag of rice? So how can the family cope in 6 months?
So how long are we? Nigerians are very industrialized people. They are very hardworking. Nigerians are independently hardworking, and they are people who quest for thriving. People in Nigeria are not lazy people, and they know what to do. You just need to create availability for sustainability. Don't create availability for slavery. You should create a system that will sustain. You know, you don't give me, I don't like handouts. That's the terrible thing you would do for a human being. That's modern slavery. It's just slavery. You cannot do that. I cannot depend on a government for the stipend that is going to be coming monthly. I mean, how about my business? Let me continue. So you would have just left those people with the subsidy so that I'll continue my business.
In fact, people are just supposing it with 8,000 to 12 million household. Like 8,000 per month, and then you're giving less than 500 people 70 billion naira. Like, what
So-
kind of government? Now this list we're even talking about, you and I are not part of it, because they're talking about people in the rural area.
They said
people that
poor
are
of the poor.
poor, and then the
And then do you know the irony? It is not true that the people in the rural areas are the ones that are poor. It depends on how you look at poverty. If you're defining poverty, poverty is the inability to harness available resources for persons or personal prospects. So you cannot just tell me that people in the villages are the people that are poor. There are people that are struggling, that sleep hungry in the cities more than in the villages. The way we live in Nigeria, Nigeria is a warm cultured people, communal people. You will hardly find, there are people in the villages that are struggling, but you have people going hungry more in the cities than in the villages. Because in the villages, they are communal. He can knock another person's house and then he get food. I remember when we used to live in the village, you can pass through a field of corn and you can plug a corn that does not belong to you. You can plug a corn and roast and eat because you're hungry. You can dig a tuber of yam and eat from somebody's farm. As much as you're hungry and you dug it for the purpose of you want to eat it because you're hungry. Villages do this in this country. And then, so, well, people who are starving and dying are not necessarily only in the village. They are there, but not only in the village. So you said it. We don't have good records. Like I told you, we are not treating the wounds. Number one wound we have in Nigeria is integrity, ethics. We've lost value. Okay, our paradigm and our mindset, our paradigm have to shift. Our mindset have to shift. We need to resume and apply patriotism. We need to own this country, and we've lost it. So people have lost it. People have lost faith in the country, and things like actually subsidy are things that give people hope for their nation. Subsidy, that's one good thing about subsidy. How about you wake up in the morning and the government said, because you are a student now, your school fees is supposed to be, you're going to be cut out 25%. You're going to only pay 25% of your school fees rather than paying the whole school fees until you finish your university because of subsidy. And they say, once you go to any medical place and you take any medicine, you're going to have only 10% or pay 5%. Create all those succor, create all benefits. It makes the Nigerian person start to have ownership. They start to feel like this is our country. They will be patriotic. They will do anything. They will do everything they can to sustain the country. They will believe in the country. Listen, I was talking to someone and I said, mentally, I'm a professional trauma competent person. And I understand how trauma affects the brain and how people think. You know, if you do by the trauma application and professional understanding of trauma, a lot of the theft that we get in Nigeria, the stealing from government coffers, all that is what we call hoarding in trauma. You know, when a child is traumatized, for instance, is very hungry, and you give them food, at some point they will eat the food and they will pocket some of the food because they're not sure if they're going to get, because they were so hungry, they're not sure if they're going to get that meal again. Even if you tell them, I have more, you don't have to hoard it, I will give you. I have, because they've gone through a lot, they will still want to hide. Let me tell you, I'm not holding a brief for people who have been stealing. Theft is theft. If you've lost integrity, you just lost integrity. But there are things that gear people and make people to do evil. So listen, if you are not sure, now you are exposed to government coffers and there are millions in dollars sitting in the name of the government and it's on your control. You have the key to that money. And then you are afraid. When your kidney goes bad, the government in Nigeria will not support you. You have to travel to some outside country somewhere to get help. And then it's going to be like 10 or 5 million or 50 million. And you say, okay, I'm going to take this 10 million in case my kidney goes bad. I can go and get another one. And then you say, my wife too. So you take another 10 million for your wife. You take another 10 million for your 2 children. You take another 10 million for your nephew. Take another 10 million for your cousin. Before you know it, you want to take all the money for your village because maybe you are the most significant person in your village. So you hoard all that money because you're not sure. I want to be sure the day Nigeria is going to go down, I'm going to have enough money that I can go to UK and buy a house and live there because it looks to you as if Nigeria is on the brink. So you don't trust that the country is stable. You are just trying to secure yourself. Insecurity financial and economic insecurity.
No wonder people say, it's our turn.
It makes you want to hoard things. You want to steal things because you want to keep enough money. If something happens to you, you know you're secured. Like, I'm going to hoard this money and save it because I've gone through poverty. I've gone through a lot. I don't want to go through lacking again. I'm going to steal all this money so I will have abundance. I don't want to lack again. Well, let me give, for example, America. If you are in the US and you can get a house by mortgage and you pay over 50 years, maybe you're going to be paying $2 a day or $2 a month, and then you pay over 50 years. You don't have to steal money to want to build a house. That's because true. There are houses on mortgage. You know, you can get, if you're sick, the government will take care of you on the instant until you're able to pay if it is beyond what is on your social security or what is your medical insurance. And then the same thing with education. You can school in America until you have a degree without a dime, and then you will pay subsequently. It can take you 50 years to pay off your school fees. So if the government had these measures, I wouldn't steal money because I want to pay school fees. I want to pay big school fees. I want to pay school fees for my kids to go to the best private university because the government schools are going on strike. So I want to send them to private universities, and the private universities are expensive. So I steal money. I hoard money because I want to send them there. So part of the reason people steal is hoarding, is that they don't believe in the system. Now, we need to fix the system. We need integrity back. We need values back. We need people. You know, there is no nation that has no corruption, but the corruption has to be minimal. It has to be minimal. Nigeria is on the other side. The corruption is more than the integrity. So we have to have integrity more than corruption. If we have amongst 5 people, that 3 have good integrity, and then you have 2 that are maybe corrupt, the system may work.
I'm glad you're already pointing out some of the solutions. See? But like yesterday or within the week, we saw how there have been series of meetings in order to address the pain that Nigerians are actually facing.
It is about us. We just steal. Like I'm saying, now you took out the subsidy, you're giving it to our governors, or you are giving it to some big guy in the government. Are we sure this guy is going to release it to me? And now that you're taking the subsidy, where is it? Who are you going to keep that money with? How is it going to get to me? That's the question. The president may release it, it may not get to me.
People have even referred to COVID-19, where we saw how palliatives were hoarded, and how sure are we that people
they will not hoard this money for that is it. So if there was integrity when government was giving subsidy, we wouldn't have these issues. The government is angry because the people did not feel the impact of the subsidy that it was paying. And now it pulled it out. Why were the people not feeling the impact of the subsidy? Because someone was holding it. And now it is the same left hand that you're passing back to the right hand. Now you are saying, I'm not paying subsidy again. So what is going to happen with the money that you're not paying subsidy? You're still going to give it to another Nigerian. So until Nigerians turn away from these things they are doing, we are still going to be revolving around the circle. We're still going to be revolving around the circle until we put back integrity, until we learn how to be patriotic, until we learn that we need to altogether put the country alive. We can work. But, giving out to some governors that are beginning to do it already, maybe, just maybe, the subsidy thing may work. But I will tell you the truth. It's government. Everybody comes with their own styles. Another government may come and bring back subsidy again. Or maybe they will try this subsidy removal and they see that it's not working. They might introduce it back again. What I will tell you on a general note is hitting hard on the general populace. I'll give you an example. Every time you drive your car out, you are boosting a lot of businesses. The vulcanizer doing your tire.
That's true.
The mechanic fixing your wheels. The fueling station where you get your gas, everybody benefits. Every time you go out of your car, you feed maybe 10 businesses every time. In fact, you even park and pay. Everything happens. But at the end of the day, now people don't go out with their cars again. So those people will not generally have business.
Well, we're going to continue. I will just break you there because there are a lot to talk about. President Tinubu has, alongside Vice President Shettima, have met with some governors and then all in a bid to look out for how they can cushion the effect. We saw how NEC also met. IPMAN is calling on President Tinubu to declare a state of emergency on our refineries, and a lot more reactions. But when we come back, I would like to get your take on all of that meeting. Viewers, thank you for staying with us on National Talk. After the break, we'll be right back to open our phone lines for you to call and add your voice. Stay with us. Democracy is the theory that common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. Join me every Friday, 7 p.m. on National Talk for analysis as well as in-depth perspective on issues as they unfold in and around Nigeria, as well as an opportunity to add your voice. Thank you for staying with us on National Talk. In case you're just joining us, we have been discussing the sudden hike in petrol price and pump price as well. So I've been doing this with Comrade Dan Asama. Before we went on the break, I was talking about the series of meetings and suggestion. IPMAN is saying declare a state of emergency on our refineries. I listened to an analyst who said the last time that the refinery was built in Nigeria was 1989, and since then the return of democracy, that a lot of people hope that things were going to work, nothing. And even the refineries that we have, each year we keep seeing that money is being budgeted for renovations, yet nothing comes out from it. It was recently that Nigerians were celebrating the Dangote commissioning of Dangote refinery, expecting that something was going to come out, but as we speak, nothing yet. And then IPMAN is saying declare state of emergency on our refineries. I've had some individuals opine that we should just sell it, we should privatize it and just get things working again, because it looks like our leaders are not ready to get things working. We keep importing day in, day out. And so IPMAN is calling on Buhari to declare state of emergency. And during their NEC meeting, we saw how that the suggestions were made depending on the treasury of the government. So in fact, the governor of Anambra said the question now is not even, the focus shouldn't even be about, the measures that the federal government is actually putting in place, but now it's going to be in the hands of governors. And you share the concern, how sure are we that it's going to end? Because now we're talking about different political parties emerging. So what is going to form the list that will make up the poor or the poorest of the poor? I heard the Bauchi State governor talking about food. I had the recommendation about having some buses shared to the 36 states, which is still at proposal level, but I'm really sure that the 70 billion naira that has been allocated to members of National Assembly has already been shared. Nigerians are still wailing like it's taking too long. And you know, the concern is this. When I first heard of the meeting between NLC, 2UC, and then the federal government about cushioning the effects, giving 8 weeks, setting committees, I was worried about the 8 weeks. Do you mean that Nigerians have to endure this pain for this long before you can do something about it? Just to make reference to the issue, what is currently happening in Nairobi, the people are actually protesting, anti-government protesting, because of the hardship that they are faced with. And we've seen how that some people have died already. And this is not the part that we want to talk.
By the way, the Nairobi thing, even though, you see, these are people who believe in a country, who wants to make a country function. Even though the president had increased, he had raised minimum wage. He raised minimum wage before even say, okay, we need to add up taxes, we need to add up these tariffs so that we'll be able to be facilitating the minimum wage. And then people raged up. See, I don't know. The core of Nigeria, I'm afraid, is dwindling. It's like a candlelight, and the candlelight is going out.
I think we have a caller, sorry.
I want to make a contribution
Go
towards
ahead.
the national talk on television.
Go ahead.
My challenge about this is those who are trusted with university actually doing, believing that they are giving trust on behalf of them. Because, as your guest says, we cannot have integrity, position of trust. If you check, it feels like people just trying to grab the issue, regardless of how acquired it. It has gone from even affect how parents no longer know how to get everybody just this.
Well, I think he's trying to talk about the integrity issue, and like
so,
you rightly said.
So like I was saying, I think we need to wake up. I mean, Nigerians need to, we did this. I mean, I don't know why is the spirit of Nigeria when we protest when things happen that we don't like. You know, when Goodluck tried this the first time, the whole country went agog. And I think we do respect some of the people in this government needs to apologize to Goodluck.
Very true. We have a caller. Let's speak that. We can hear you. Go on with your contribution.
My suggestion is that in Nigeria now, okay, last time we are talking that before the election, they are talking that National Assembly, their money is supposed to be received. Because, okay, see all those people, National Assembly, some of them are millionaires. Then we are sharing money on them. Some of them, if you go to some from the state, if you go to this man, the president of place, that looks at the water, they kind of car, all of them get plenty money, everywhere. Okay, you are sharing money to them again. What are the poor masses? Why can't they use this money to stabilize the economy? Many things that will help the Nigeria and help the poor masses. They are carrying money in the National Assembly. That is the nation. Let me tell you, Nigeria is a place, Nigeria is poor. Nigeria is a country that makes the richer continue to be richer, and then the poor continue to die. It's not that to do a country. We are Nigerians, we are living in the Republic, all this small country. But we see how things are running. How to digital, everything. You cannot kill in this small country, the Republic. Everything is running with digital. We did our ambassador last time. Our ambassador is very, very angry about the topic of calling Nigeria as we are citizens of Nigeria. Because if you see this country, talk of Burkina Mali, for a country of 10 million, 7 million, but to see how they run their economy, nobody is lacking. Food, cost of living is very low. You cannot suffer and talk in the Republic. You cannot use 1,000 and talk in Nigeria. How can you see somebody, a National Assembly member, didn't work more than 10? Some of them pass more than 10 cars. You're buying bullets for them, doing everything for them. This is not how to do a context. These Nigerian people will come out and show this people that all of us, even to die again, all of us will die. Which can't want to be this.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
If you want to share this, then share it to keep all the ACT members and leave others alone. You need to do a context.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. This is the voice of an angry Nigerian. You heard him.
Of course. And you know, he's in diaspora. He's not even here. He's talking about, I'm not even started to talk about some other countries that are just beside us and they're doing well. Like I said, we just need to heal the wounds. We just need to get the treatment right. We should stop treating the symptoms. All these issues of palliatives, all this succoring that he's giving, it's just the symptoms. The whole thing is that people should be persecuted. Governance should take place.
That's true.
You talk about the refineries. I don't want to forget that. Listen, it's not about fixing the refinery. There are two things there. You fix the refinery, it's not necessarily going to change the pricing because this things to refine crude oil is expensive. Those, even if you privatize it, which is one of the things the government can do, if you privatize it, the people that are going to be running those refineries will have to make profit. Like Dangote, for instance, it's not because Dangote is here and then you're going to have fuel is going to be cheap necessarily. It may be less, but I would tell you to still be on the benchmark of like 500 naira. It's not going to be less than 500 for them to purify it and to separate it and to get fuel and kerosene and everything out. We need to know that it is a system. The refineries will make it available, but not necessarily cheap. So if the refineries are active and are working, people will get employment. And by the way, I don't think anybody has been fired in the refineries, by the way. The staff are still there.
Yes.
They still do maintenance. They still run as if it is functional. They run as a functional entity, but there's no product coming out of it. So those are the things. That's why the Labour Party presidential candidate the other time always keep frowning that we need to move from consumption to production, because everything is consumption. We're consuming. The refineries, and by the way, there is a certain level of repairs that must be done on those refineries, otherwise they will go obsolete. You have to like keep some machines on a certain stage, otherwise they will crack up. So now we need to not only bring back the refineries. Even if you bring back the refineries, the price will not necessarily change significantly. There will be some changes, but it will not be very significant. What we are saying here is that we have enough resources in this country, but it's hoarded between a few individuals. It has to be spread out. And maybe possibly this is the reason why the government is saying, let's take out the subsidy, because subsidy money is going to a few individuals. Now, if you take out the subsidy money from the few individuals, is it still going to the general masses? Or is it going to a few individuals again to disburse?
Well, I would like to just cut you there. Let's take a tweet by the spokesperson of APC talking about Bayo Ononuga. You recall that before then we had a lot of plea from the president saying, Nigerians, be patient with me, endure this hardship, things are going to be better. And the spokesperson of the APC tweeted recently saying, in this season of high fuel price, I want to plead with our people to exercise some patience. We are all jointly experiencing the pain. All those intemperate attacks against the new government of President Bola Tinubu should stop. Let's await the palliative as his government have promised. Let's await the palliative that will flow from each state as more money is channeled to them from the subsidy savings. And he said we cannot go back to the hyper fraudulent subsidy regime where we were spending more money on petrol than on roads, education, and health. My people, patience, patience. Please, I beg you all. No country has ever made progress without the people going through some pains. Our country under Tinubu's watch shall certainly excel. And my point is this. Do you think that Nigerians, like we are all, because he made a statement that all of us are feeling the pain, looking at the fact that some people already have 70 billion naira being shared, people that are already overpaid, people that are already millionaires, like the caller said, have 70 billion naira, while 12 million that they say they hope to identify in rural areas are going to be receiving 8,000 monthly. Do you agree that we are all suffering? And then talking about, yeah, we have a caller. Good evening. Go ahead with your contribution. Well, I think the network is bad. Do well to call us back. So do you agree we're all suffering, or is it some people suffering and then some people are not feeling the impact of this?
Of course, that is glaring. We know that we are not all suffering. I mean, some people are not necessarily suffering. Of course, it's everywhere around the world. There are some people that are exempted from this because of where they found themselves and because of the positions that the society has placed them. They wouldn't suffer. So you wouldn't think that we're not going to be equal. What we're saying is that the average class should be the larger margin. The average class, the opposite is what is this in Nigeria. The average class should be the larger margin. That is where advanced countries are. That's what makes you one of the criteria that makes you a first world country. When your middle class is largest, then you automatically become a first world country. But our middle class is shrinking. Either you are poor or you are rich. No, the line in between is gone. So this is it. What I'm saying here is that do we trust the people that Tinubu is giving this money to? Do we trust Tinubu with our money, the subsidy money that he's holding back? Are we trusting you with it? Because I will tell you what, I have my own suspicion. You know, the government have been struggling lately for government expenses. They need to run the system. So to even the governance, the cost of governance in Nigeria is becoming so expensive. They need to find ways. They want to borrow here, they want to borrow there, and then I'm beginning to feel possibly they are pulling out this subsidy so that they can finance the cost of running governance. And then if that is it, then the money is still going back to those people that are already established. Now back to the villages and all of that. When you talk about the poor of the poor, I started saying this and I don't want to skip it. I want to remember that. One of the ways we're going to solve this problem, one of the ways Nigeria is going to start to make progress is if you don't have a good foundation, the house will be built on nothing. It could collapse at any time. This is how I think it should go. We must have a standardized database in this country. You know what I'm so angry about? And I will always speak about it. How would you go to road safety? You want to get a driver's license. You do a whole documentation. They take your height, they take your blood type, they take your age, they take your everything. You go that you want to do BVN. They take the same data from you. You go to the bank to open an account. They take the same data. You go to get a national ID card. They do the same data. You go to get enrolled into school. They do the same data. You get to the police station. They do the same data. Why don't we have a centralized database? If it's going to be from the NIMSI, let it be from the national identity, whatever. And then every data, every other entity can borrow from there. And if it is comprehensively done, then that means everybody can borrow from there. And then we can have a synchronized system. This is how we start by doing things. Otherwise, some people will be victimized. Some people will just have too much and some people have nothing. Now, back to the incentive that you're giving, the palliative you're giving. I really think the palliative thing here is a wrong idea. I really don't like the palliative idea. I don't like the palliative angle about the whole subsidy thing. I'm of the opinion that this money, if you're really pulling subsidy out, bless the people back with the money, but not by individually trying to empower independent families by giving them stipends. No, it doesn't. I think it's a bad economic idea. It's a terrible slavery. It's not going to sustain you, and it's going to be an illusion. You're going to live into this illusion, and you're going to be lying to yourself and the government and everybody. Listen, the whole thing is this. Put it back into infrastructure. Put it back into the system. Put it back into governance in a way that the general masses will feel the impact of it. Let's have better roads. Let's have facilities. Let's have amenities. Let's have education. Let's have our hospitals. Let's have things working that the ordinary person can benefit. If he walks into a clinic, a primary healthcare place in their village, let them be able to have all the medical facilities, and the doctors are paid and nurses are paid, and he has all the facilities working, and he gets what he needed for his medical attention. That's what I want. I mean, even if it's going to be expensive for you to travel, but it's going to be this way to do things. Another way he should have done it is make a robust system in a way that, I'll give you for example, the futuristic thinking about this is that if you look at it from the economic angle, things are going to go back to how they were when we were at the lockdown period during the whole COVID thing. Listen, information technology is taking a lead here. So now people are going to start to begin to do business by using internet again. Now, rather than me going to Bukuru, which is going to be like another 10,000, 5,000 naira, I'm just going to do something on the internet. I would rather for me to go to Abuja to have to do the meeting because the transportation is heavy. I'm going to do a Zoom meeting, or I'm going to do a Skype meeting, or whatever, any social media meeting, rather than going physical, because going physical is going to be expensive. So how can the government put SOCO on internet, for example? Can you put SOCO on internet? Can you make data a little cheaper? What's happening with our NICOMSAT? What is happening with our telecoms? Can the government, put some kind of palliative, some kind of subsidy on those lines? Can you put subsidy on education? Can you put subsidy? The money you're putting out of the subsidy, don't distribute it to people's homes. Put it on education. Put it on roads. Put it on every other infrastructure that the general masses will benefit from. But when you start giving people 8,000 naira, you're going to make them redundant, and then they're going to be believing that the government is giving them some kind of cushioning for the effect, but they're just going to make them slave. It's just a handout. And it's not going to sustain. It's a bad economic policy. I don't want to see this government implementing that.
Well said. You know, one of our challenges as a country is sycophancy. You see a lot of people hiding under it to just for what they are going to get. You made mention of the time of Goodluck Jonathan, how that some people need to go and apologize to him. For Goodluck, we saw that
people were crazy. I don't want to mention names, but people were mad.
They were on the streets.
You know what's happening. You know the annoying thing. It's just like, is the same human being wearing different clothes. Because you change your clothes today and then you think it has changed who you are. No, we know you. We know what you did. And then all of a sudden you're doing the opposite of what you had said you have believed in.
And I think they need to come out publicly to apologize, because back then the economy was even working.
Yeah.
And it was petrol was just
65 naira,
and then people
something
told
like
the street of Ajo-Ota protesting.
People torn Lagos down, people torn Abuja down, people did everything. They stopped, they crippled the economy, and then back to TUC, NLC. I am disappointed. I am so disappointed. They are sold out. I'm saying this with no apology. I mean, how can we wait? You say we should wait for what? 2 months? How do you mean? I mean, do you not see that the people are suffering? Can't you see the pain? I don't know, TUC, NLC, everything is going mute. You know, it's supposed to be a pressure group. It's supposed to be this. You know, every person needs a little bit of a shove. Even the government needs a shove. Opposition in governance only helps the government to work better. It's not a bad thing necessarily. And then if you're there as a pressure group and then you become part of the movement, I think it's a disappointment.
Well, I think we need to really treat the wounds that we have as a country. We really want to move forward.
Which is integrity.
Yes.
And then ethics. We need to bring back ethics. We need to bring patriotism. We need to bring back integrity. You know, I mean, we cannot continue to be putting makeup on a person that is not even taking shower.
That's true.
You know, you just need to wash the wounds and make the wounds heal. Don't keep putting bandits on it. Don't keep adding dust. You just can't keep wearing clothes on torn ones. Because you have a cloth and it's torn, you wore a good one on the torn one. It doesn't change the one that is inside.
Well said, well said. Accountability is indeed key. It is in the same country that we have an accountant general that has a case of about 90 billion moving like freely, and a lot
and then
of
you
cases,
want to give him palliative money.
A lot of cases, even the Senate president, there are a lot of cases that are affiliated to him and all of that. We just hope that as Nigerians will continue to speak truth to power. If we say our country is a great country, is going to work again, then we must be deliberate about speaking truth to power. Thank you so much for creating
Keep
time
hope alive, Nigerians. I think we still believe in this country. We don't have any other country.
That's
This is our
true.
country. We can still make this work. It's not going to be easy, like the spokesman tweeted. It's not going to be easy, but if it is hard, it must have a good result. We cannot go through all this hardship and the result is still decaying. We don't like that.
Thank you so much.
Yes, it's a great time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And to our viewers out there, thank you so much for staying with us on National Talk. Until we come your way next week, you have a blessed weekend.